Talaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. You spend enough time on Twitter, you see random things. Swan Marcus tweeted, "It's so weird how the RFK Jr. Bear story," I don't know if you heard this one, Google it. "It's so weird how the RFK Jr. Bear story is only the third worst story involving a Kennedy having a dead body in their car." Wow. I'm excited about this. This just hit the wires as I'm recording. Mitch Hedberg documentary. Yes. Deadline reporting the life of comedian Mitch Hedberg, master of the one-liner and a talent beloved by fellow comics. That is true. Will be the focus of an upcoming documentary from 2222222 Films. They announced they have completed principal photography on the project, a 5-year-long undertaking that features interviews with Margaret Cho, BJ Novak, Louis Black, Jim Gaffick, and Dave Attell, Doug Stanhope, who's the right person, Gary Goldman, Nick Swartzman, among many others. BJ Novak said, "We talked about him as if he were too special for this world. He had this energy that he was from another planet." Director Jeff Siegel says, "A lot of people have had a lot to say for a very long time, but no one said it until now. It's taken many years to connect with nearly everyone who was a part of Mitch's life and piece together his largely unknown story. All that most people know about him is that he was hilarious and died young, but he was so much more than that." Among the interviews are close family members, childhood friends, comedy colleagues. The press release says the documentary takes viewers into comedy clubs scattered throughout America in the 90s. For Hedberg and his peers, the road was life and the grind was real, especially in the days of carving out a career before the internet, before society learned to better address mental health needs. I'm finding it curious that this one story that I've seen about this does not mention Lynn Shawcroft, Mitch's wife, and who I worked with on some Mitch-related projects. Back in 2018, Vulture wrote a piece, and they quoted Lynn as saying she's been working with an LA-based production company to digitize everything, and her goal is that everything Mitch left behind, every half-written joke, every spontaneous utterance on a microtape, will be accessible within a few clicks on a mouse. I'm not seeing anything about Lynn and a documentary. I'll dive into it when I have a little more time, and we'll see what else pops up. But that is top of mind to me. Let me call up a story I had later in the podcast, but it's relevant. Let me move it here. From Late Nighter, Kelly Carlin seems surprised that George Carlin is appearing in the Saturday Night Live movie. Apparently, Kelly tweeted and now has deleted it, but the original tweet said, "I found it so strange that this film is about the first taping of SNL and the host that night isn't in the film. I know he was doing a lot of blow that week, but I do know he showed up for the taping." Kamal Nanjiani let Kelly Carlin know that her father is indeed a character in the film, played by Matthew Rhys. Kelly then wrote, "I guess he is in it. I can't find anything on IMDb about it, though. Gonna have to make some calls tomorrow." Late Nighter makes clear that Kelly isn't necessarily opposing that George is in the film. When she heard he was playing George, she said, "Oh, wow, he's great." Larry Wilmore then chimed in and said, "If that's true about Reese, that's great. He's amazing." Kelly wrote back, "We loved Barry Mason." Late Nighter writes, "However, she added the estate was in the dark about it. We were never contacted by anyone about it. I think they'd get clearance to use his name and likeness," she told Kamal Nanjiani. "I just find that weird, wouldn't you?" Late Nighter says Kelly admitted she's unclear on what legal permissions, if any, are called for in the situation. Another user speculated George's likeness might be fair game since he's a public figure. Kelly wrote, "From my experiences, my dad died. Depicting someone's name and likeness is usually something you get permission for. I've had TV shows use a picture of him on a wall and get clearance for that, but maybe this is different." Late Nighter mentions that the Hollywood Reporter named that George Carlin's longtime manager Jerry Hamza serves as the executor of his estate. I personally have worked with Jerry Hamza as executor of the Carlin estate. I assume he is still the executor. If it's not Jerry, it would probably be Kelly. Well, it's unclear if the Carlin estate itself was contacted. Kelly was at least making it known that no one had contacted her. All right, that's all interesting. It goes back to my point about I hope somebody talked to Lynn Shawcroft about this Mitch Hedberg documentary. A little bit of buzz on an event that happened Monday night. Comedians for Kamala. Nick Offerman was trending for a while. He sang an original tune from the perspective of reformed Republican voters. He introduced the song, telling the audience he was powerfully grateful to support Harris, who didn't just prosecute rapists, but also is not one herself. Nick said, "I think there are going to be a lot of Republicans that for obvious reasons are going to be Kamala curious." He wrote the song from the perspective of Republican men who might have once been blind, but now can see a clear way to decency. Offerman played the tune of God Bless the USA, Proud to be an American, that song. He sang along the lyrics, "I won't sing it here, I will read it," in a flat voice. When he mocked the disabled and war heroes, "I look the other way." He said to march on the Capitol, "If the president says it's okay. I don't mind sex with porn stars. I'd do it too if I had the guts. But when it comes to banging the furniture, that's just effing nuts." I'm proud to be a Kamala man who's quit the GOP because I just can't abide a man who's tried for 34 felonies. It's time to stand up and face the facts that the men I once cheered are a bunch of wingnut white nationalists. Those guys are effing weird. Send your letters to Nick Offerman. Meanwhile, Kamala has chosen her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. The internet started speculating who might play Tim Walz on SNL. Some of the picks, Nick Offerman, Steve Martin, and I'll go with this one, Jim Gaffigan, who's a pretty decent actor. One Twitter user wrote, rooting for Tim Walz for many reasons, but mainly because I'd love to see Danny DeVito play him on SNL for the rest of the election season. Phil Wang, a comedian that I like a lot, has a new Netflix special coming out September 3rd. It is called Wang in There, Baby. Wang in There, Baby is about being British, being Asian, octopuses, America, and the trappings of minor fame. There is a clip. Let's listen.
I went on a really great holiday recently to Paris. Really nice holiday. It was a good holiday because I went with people who didn't mind being touristy, right? I hate going on holiday with people who don't want to be touristy. It's like, get over yourself. You're a tourist. You're here to do the touristy stuff. The touristy stuff is actually the fun part of the place. Otherwise, you're just living there, aren't you? Oh, Phil, the Eiffel Tower is a bit touristy. All right, then let's go to the dentist and do a big shop. It's like, what do you want?
Phil Wang, Netflix, September 3rd. Colin Jost is done with the Olympics. He's heading home. Late Nighter says it's not clear if it's because he hurt his foot or the finals were delayed or whatever, but he left before the finals. Colin Jost had told NBC's Mike Tirico that he was under strict doctor's orders to keep both his head and his feet out of the water. He'd also been told he couldn't fly for 2 days. Subbing in for Colin Jost is Australian meteorologist and radio personality Luke Bradham, who was in Tahiti covering surfing for Australia's Channel 9. Luke says, I got a phone call as the surfing came back online. It was literally just, Colin's not able to work it. Could you please fill in for us? It is unclear why Colin left. I'm going to speculate because the flight home was already booked before the finals got delayed, and somebody looked at it and went, you know what, this bit isn't working. It's not worth throwing more money at it. And Colin was like, yeah, let me come home. I got to go to Tahiti for a week. That was the plan. Jon Stewart is not on The Daily Show this week. He tested positive for COVID. Hope you're doing okay, John. Michael Costa will host every night this week. And starting today, it's the 16th Annual Asheville Comedy Festival. Kicking off tonight, your headliner, Tom Segura. Definitely not a serial killer. Check out yesterday's episode for that callback. The press release tells us Tom Segura, a comedian, celebrated for his sharp wit and distinctive comedic style. Speaking of comedy festivals, right before I recorded this, I recorded with Walker Evans, who's putting together next week's Columbus Comedy Festival. That'll be the Saturday interview this weekend. Impressive dude, impressive festival. So that is coming up, and that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. See you tomorrow.